Good morning, everybody. My name is Dominic. I run Stream, with the UK's first iPhone-only multi-camera live stream and event video production company. Over the last couple of weeks, me and my very good friend Sandra Thompson, who is a leading consultant in customer experience and emotional intelligence, have been running this show live on LinkedIn, talking all things customer experience. We've been very fortunate to have been joined in the last few shows by Richard Chataway from BVA Nudge, and then just last week, Adrian Swinscoe, who is the author of Punk CX and How to Wow. Today, we're going to get straight to it because we are a little bit more time limited. Sandra, I'm going to bring you in. Let me do this and this and this. Sandra, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. I'm very well. It's a different time of the day and it's a Monday morning. No, I'm really good, thank you. Really good. How are you doing?
I'm very well indeed, thank you. Very well indeed. I'm looking forward to this one because not only is this topic proving to be fascinating for me and everyone watching it, I've had some really lovely comments from people that I wouldn't have expected to have watched this so far, but also I have met Laura, albeit only once, and actually we were introduced and have ended up working together as a result of my knowing Laura. So this is great to bring it all together.
6 degrees of separation and all that. Well, I'm over the moon that Laura can join us today. A quick intro as to what this is all about. Laura and I met last year, and in fact, my first interaction with Laura was over the phone, where this effervescent character who was full of energy and positivity wanted to sponge up as much information about customer experience as possible, just kind of spent an hour on the phone. So Laura and I met on the Applied Customer Experience course, and I've invited her to speak today about her own experience of learning about customer experience. So without further ado, let's bring Laura in and let her introduce herself and what she's doing now. Laura.
Okay, Laura, come on, join us. Hello.
Hello.
How are you
both? So good to see you.
I've been really looking forward to this.
Yeah, the trio.
I'm less effervescent today, more green in colour rather than effervescent, but I'll take that, Sandra. Thank you very much. I do appreciate that.
Tell us a bit about what you do, what your role is, what your responsibilities are, because I think that will help people understand the reason why you're on this call, particularly, and what you have to offer to the conversation.
Will do. Okay, so I work at a commercial conferencing company called HansonWade, and we basically do events from construction to HR, all over the world, predominantly in the US actually. But my role is a director of event operations. So my team are responsible for just delivering what gets sold, what gets created, which is really exciting. And about a year and a half ago, my boss said to me, "So Laura, customers, go." So I was thinking, great, how do I do this? And I was very lucky to come across the course. And as Sandra said, we spoke on the phone. So my remit basically is to give the customer voice here, which is really exciting and scary, but great.
But I think the thing that's quite fascinating is following you on your journey, because certainly I try to put myself in your shoes, and I try and think about what you're up against, what the leadership within your organization is expecting of you, and just really to watch what you're delivering. And I think that your story is quite typical of others that are out there. So if you want to say a bit around, what kind of brought you to customer experience as a whole. One, you talked about your director saying, "Customer, hit it." What else is going on? What's the burning platform?
We've approached it in quite in different ways, but I'd say that the journey in getting into the customer was a burning desire of all of my colleagues really. When they're on site, they just want to give something extra. So we've got a very dedicated space of 2 days traditionally, with post-workshop and pre-workshop, where people are coming to learn. So it's usually very highly intelligent individuals, usually within the pharmaceutical and medical sphere, who are coming together, and there's just a desire from the business, from everybody in the business, to do that extra step and go that extra mile, which is really exciting. And when we consider where we are as a company ourselves, in a very traditional industry as such, it's burn and churn, we get through things. It's very exhilarating to be on the other side of questioning why. What do our customers want? when do they want it, and how is best for them to receive it. But to say we're touching the tip of the iceberg is a massive understatement. We're even, we're not even the flag on the top yet. We've got so much learning to do as a business, but simplistically, we don't know yet who complains about what and when to who and what the standard responses are. But, we all like a challenge, don't we?
So I think what you're highlighting is something that is typical in most organizations. I think that businesses go along and they're doing really well, and either they decide that there's this thing called customer experience, or there's this desire to take it to the next level, and to differentiate, actually, to get to a point of differentiation. I mean, we know that there have been journal articles and scientific facts around, well, actually, if you're going to be doing a service or a product, how are you going to be different to everybody else? Often it comes down to how you're dealing with your customers, how you make them feel the show in town, because you make them feel fantastic. So I think what you're describing is the start of the journey with HansonWade, and actually doing a bit of this is probably not the right word, but an audit of actually what's happening right now. What are we really good at? What are we really lousy at? Or actually, what do we really know nothing about? Is that true?
That's true. It's a simplistic of like, where do we want to be? So whilst we're establishing this utopian vision of what we want, it's what are we doing here, and what are we doing that is good, and what are we doing that can be better. And one of my big takeaways from various of the speakers on the ACE course, ACE was great acronym, Sandra, well done.
I feel like an A-team. I feel like I need to jump out of a van.
I'm there. Less flu, but I'm there. One of my biggest takeaways from every speaker that we had, and the variety of speakers was so insightful for me, because there was so much to learn, because what everybody in that room was passionate about was a better customer experience, but everybody in that room was a customer. So you would find, as Sandra was always trying to, probably just me really, like keep me quiet and keep me on a track, is get the basics right, get the basics right, understand where you are. This utopian vision is great, and we can all aspire to be better. I mean, come on, I've been trying to lose weight for about 3 years since having my daughter, but that's aspirational. But where are we right now? Let's live in the reality. And in customer experience, in the world that you're in, especially when we're greeting repeat customers, we're very unique in events. We see our customers every year. My team are the only team that talks to every single customer that we have at HansonWade. And that's really inspirational and really exciting. But let's understand where we are right now before we try and, go to this extravagance. Let's just try and understand where we are. And I think any of us as customers, if we've flown, if we've stayed at a hotel, good, bad, or indifferent, or I don't know, we just go to our local supermarket and get spoken to very well or very poorly, we all have an opinion on that. But we all appreciate when the little things count, when we get spoken to as a person and we don't get put on that naughty step. And I think that's where we are right now in our customer experience journey, really trying to understand what's ground zero, where are we? And that in itself is exciting. It's uncovering quite a lot, which is great.
I'm going to jump in and ask a question. How you're doing that? How are you finding this out?
Well, I'd say that the how is really, really endorsed and supported by the CEO having this passion for customers. So a lot of that is about his stakeholder, his buy-in of the belief system of customer experience is making it easier. And it's just raising the conversation within the business. So how I did straight away from the courses, I created a customer experience focus group. It was 2 representatives from every function within the team. So we went from marketing, data, sponsorship, sales, delegate sales, production. And we just started having a conversation about trying to align our values on what we think a good customer experience is. Yeah. That was fascinating. That in itself, we had one core project, and our first project in customer experience was putting in a new automated survey tool. Simple, sounds simple, but we had 14 people in that room who had very different experiences themselves of the customer experience that we give. So we had to track back and kind of say, okay, where do we balance what we want from it, for what the customer wants and needs from it, and what we really fundamentally have to keep in mind is that it's actually about us learning more about our customer, which we've never done. We successfully launched that. We've gone into version 2 of those surveys. They're automated. They go out to every customer. They're standardized. So right now, we're about 6 months worth of data into kind of going, what are the quantitative, objective results that we've got that we can find meaningful? And that's NPS, CSAT, and customer experience score. All of which, by the way, didn't have a clue what they were before Sandra.
So there's something I kind of want to take the clock back just a little bit, because we've dived into what you're doing and how it's working out and all the decisions that you're making. I just want to take the clock back a bit and describe a scenario to you, and see how that fits. Because I meet a lot of people who at conferences, I meet them at other meetings where someone from marketing, someone from strategy, someone from research, someone from insight, someone from operations says, I need to do this thing. I need to do this thing called customer, but I don't know where to start. I don't know how am I meant to know what to do? Some of them have bought some books, brilliant. Some people have gone on to webinars. But I think my question to you first off is, when you realized that you wanted to learn about customer experience, what did you do to try and help yourself gain the knowledge you thought you needed to pull this off? What did you do?
Exactly that. There isn't that much out there, really, in the customer experience space, but there's so much. It's a very peculiar space to be in because it touches every single industry and every single sector. And I did that. I got on the internet and like, what is customer experience? What is customer success? I still question myself on a weekly, if not monthly basis of what that actually is, and what that should mean to us. And I think it's I never stop asking that question because it changes. But I'd say that the most valuable thing, and I'm not saying this just because we're in events, is go to an event, speak to people. Because I think what you can, whilst this format is fantastic with LinkedIn Live and in collaboration with Stream and yourself, Sandra, it's fantastic. It's really putting the personal, when we talk about authenticity, that's great, but you can never get more authentic than standing in front of an excellent speaker, whether you agree or not. And it's the people you stand next to that you kind of say, does that feel right to you? Does that feel right to me? Or, if you're lucky that I am, that you get to sit on a table with great people that then become acquaintances and things like that. And I'd say that really that would be the impetus. That's what's kept me going, because too much academic, too much personality online, you can end up going down a rabbit hole. And I think the really important thing is just to stay back and stay in a research state and test how you feel about it. Speak to people in your organization. I'm thinking about doing this. How does this feel to you? How would this affect you if this changed? Why should we do it? Why wouldn't we do it? And most people I find that I've spoken to who have this role or get given this customer run for it, I find that they are quite senior in the business. They've already established themselves in a business, in a field of expertise. And it's like, here's another, feather to your cap. But don't be afraid to ask the silly questions. You're learning. This is like, you're back 20 years and you're back in your first job. Just ask the questions. There's so much gold out there. You just have to be sort of vulnerable enough to ask, I think. So I'd say get to events. Read research, but don't buy into it. Find your own truth, I suppose. God, that sounded a little bit evangelical, didn't it? Find your own truth.
So when I was pulling the course together, I did it because I felt that there was a gap. There was a gap in bringing science and bringing some academic stuff, actually, some theorists in psychology, in behavioral science, in neuroscience particularly, where I thought, actually, do you know what? These guys that have this role that they have to fulfill, where they don't know whether what they're doing is right and they don't know the language to use.
Yeah.
If I can equip them with a bunch of language that talks about how the brain works, how people behave, the reasons why these things work and these things don't work, and then bring a whole bunch of people in who have done this stuff, but do it in a way that the participants of the course can ask lots of questions, that must be the golden formula. So I guess my stand on this is, while I think that people are able to self-serve, they're able to go to conferences and stuff like that, the richness of what we tried to do last autumn and we're doing again in January is to give people, 15 people, an intimate experience of being able to ask whatever questions they need, because actually this customer experience thing is massively personal.
Yeah.
Your journey was completely different to Nick's, to Kate's, to various others. And unless you're able to do that, unless you're able to ask the questions that are pertinent to your business, I don't think you're ever going to be prepared.
No.
What do you think about everything I've just said?
I agree, and there's no payment coming my way, guys. I agree completely, and I would add to that, Sandra, is that what the course gave, as well as everything you've just stated, was that richness actually played into the rest of your work. Because often when you're tasked with doing this, it's very rare that when you're at this very beginning stage, this very embryonic stage, that you're going, okay, don't work on anything else, go and crack on and do whatever. It often comes with, but this is going to be 20% of your job or 30% of your job. So all of this learning, that situation, the thinking, the feeling, the mapping. I'm operationally minded, right? As my husband can attest to with how many spreadsheets we have just to go on holiday. So I'm operationally minded. But if we put this into context, I was going, I had to learn how to step back and be from potentially learn more about customer, more about a different type of customer, which was a lot of the student representatives that we had in, that were using live chatbots a lot more, and how to give that personal experience when they think they're talking to a computer and they're not, and how to become friendly without getting a stalker. It was a great conversation we had in the group. But I would say that it was the richness that came, that helped support every endeavor that you were trying to do to get this across. And it is no understatement that I left every week not sleeping, because it was just so inspiring. And it wasn't just for CX, it was genuinely for, okay, is this how salespeople think? This is interesting. I've never thought about it like that, because in my current role, I'm operational. This is teaching me something else that then you layer on top the beautiful thing that is CX. So I'd go beyond. It's not just for CX. It really does widen your sphere, really. It's business, more into business, not just streamlined.
It's one of the reasons why I was passionate about developing this thing as well is because I was pretty hopeless at school, and I was Brit rubbish at university first time round. But when I did further education, when I went off to do my master's, 17 years ago, I was ready. I was actually ready for everything that was being thrown at me. So I remember distinctly you asking the question around, is there anything else I should be reading? Is there anything else I should be looking at? And me thinking, oh my gosh, I've just met my previous persona. Think around being able to cherry pick bits and pieces of what I knew from what I've seen over the last 10 years to say, watch this TED talk, have a look at this article. And my ambition, this is a loaded question, actually, I realized it as I was formulating it in my mind. My ambition for every individual on that course was that they got stuff that was right for them and their learning style. And I think because it's an experience of learning, that's what I was really after, was ensuring that everyone felt like they were being held and they were being taken on their own learning journey. And I think, that's, I don't know if there's a question in that, actually. That was just a little rant about where the motivation of wanting it to be significantly, to be important, to take you on the journey that you wanted to go on. Having that conversation with you before we started to say, what do you want? What are you expecting from this course? And making sure that I could give you what you needed to get you to the next level, right?
So adding no pressure to yourself there at all, Sandra, for 15 participants, like, come on. But I'd say that you achieved that, and I can't obviously speak for anybody else. I know Lee commented on this recently that so Lee and I are probably similar characters, similar personalities. Like, give me more, help me learn. Less reflective, more activist antagonist. But I'd say that happened because it goes beyond you, and that is good customer experience, right? It's when you set a parameter of success for everybody in a room, and that can be delegates, that can be your employees, that can be your customers, your customer types, whatever it might be, is that by proxy, people are helping one another and they're teaching one another and they're learning to listen. They're active listening versus just going bull at a gate, it's learning for me. But I think that's what happened, is that we became it flowed because there was that community sense of we want to all achieve something relative within our lives. And, we had a fantastic WhatsApp group that came from one of our speakers, actually. The lovely guy from Bang Olufsen suggested that just share your good stories, and we'd start sharing, I've read this, do you want to have a look at it? This might work for you for what you were talking about. So I think that whilst, you probably set yourself the impossible, you achieved it because everyone was very actively invested and involved in what we were all individually trying to achieve. And that's refreshing, right? That's nice from a commercial organization.
So from the content that we covered, all the different topics that we went through, what would you say was potentially the most meaningful for you?
Oh, meaningful.
I hope you gave her advance notice of that question, Sandra, because no. That's really mean.
I'm gonna go with, okay, so meaningful in the day-to-day, first of all. So meaningful in the day-to-day was move the needle, right? So to move the needle, you need to understand where you are and where you want to be. It's a bit like we were saying earlier. But it was just move the needle. And again, I think it was Simon that said the same thing, is that we were able to prove that this changed from this to this. And wonderfully, 6 months ago or so, probably more, oh gosh, it's November. Okay, so in January, we were able to sort of say, this is where we are and this is where we want to go. So moving the needle, now that can be the tiniest move, but as long as it's a move, and it doesn't matter if it's good or bad, it's the fact that it's moved and you understand why it's moved. So move the needle was one that's really stuck with me in the day-to-day, and it's a good sense check of going, will this move the needle, good or bad or indifferent? Yeah. And I think a personal takeaway, really, I suppose, personal takeaway, because it's more challenging to me, is stakeholder engagement, getting that buy-in from people, and really sort of asking of yourself to leave your ego at the door and you'll come and get this quite clean. Ask the questions, be that person, drive yourselves forward, kind of thing. So I'd say the day-to-day is move the needle, and then the other one is stakeholders, which isn't just the CEO and the board. It's your colleagues, it's your new starter, it's your HR department. This affects everybody. So, yeah.
It was interesting, actually, because I remember Tom coming in from Waitrose, and in actual fact, a lady called Kat coming in from John Lewis in January. And that whole thing about the organisational culture, and the point around the voices being heard and the propensity to listen and techniques to get engagement. And I do think that from all of the sessions, and I think all of them were valued, but I think particularly from a Waitrose perspective, understanding where you have influence and where you may as well just put your energy somewhere else in order to get traction. And I think the other thing that the participants were surprised at was the idea that you might not have to go down the transformation route, which is really what you're saying about moving the needle. You can actually make quite a difference by doing a number of quite small things that have a ripple effect, because all of a sudden people start paying attention. People start going, have you seen that thing that Laura's done? Yeah, I have. Well, this, because this is now what we're doing. And then it kind of stacks, right? It kind of, because it starts to stack. And I think that while you're learning all of this language, while you're learning some of the science behind it, which I certainly from other people I've spoken to, it gives them the confidence to say, you shouldn't be doing this, you should be thinking about that. Just the ability to start a few things without very much budget to prove how you've moved the needle, coming back to your to say, we did a little test, and actually this is the improvement, we're going to now ramp that up a little bit. I think that people, if I take the clock back again, like 2 years or a year and a half, where you knew you had this gift but you didn't know where to start, my ambition was always to give individuals the confidence just to try a few things, and not, and this is important, not to take on this whole transformation program that takes a year to define and it takes a year to cost out. And by the time that's happened, everyone's asleep.
It's so true. It's so true.
Said, you spent $250,000. Where's my staff?
Yeah. Yeah.
The word transformation, I don't know, I've got a real problem with it, because I think customer transformation, it's incremental, right?
Just know your customer. This is quite simple. Understand your customer for who they are today. And then if you're really good, and if you're really, really lucky, you can craft how they're going to feel in the future, how you're going to help them become a massive endorsement of your product and your behaviors and your company and your organization and everything that you all stand for collectively. Then you can include your customers in there. You know, we all know the story where Amazon have an empty chair in their boardroom or all of their meeting rooms for the Amazon customer. And Adrian taught us all last week that if you go to relentless.com, that's where it is. You know, but just know who they are today. There's not that. Why transform them? They're already with you. They're already paying. They already want to be there. They just want to be listened to. Give them a platform. You know, I agree. Transformation.
I'm going to jump in briefly. We've got people watching. If you are watching out in the LinkedIn universe, please let us know where you're watching from. Ask questions, make comments on really what Sandra and Laura are talking about. We want to see people involved. And as things pop up, then I will interject and ask them at the appropriate time or make the comment as and when I see fit.
The other thing that I thought was quite interesting is that while on the course we had people from operations, from strategy, from owner experience, from student experience, there were still very common threads. There were still very common things that people had to deal with. And the value of the conversations you guys were having when we were having our break and our sushi, it felt like, that was quite rich too, helping one another out, knowing that you're not on your own. I mean, how does that stand? Because obviously, we're still in touch, but the subway isn't in touch. Where do you get that continuation from?
That for me has come from attending some events. So once you declare yourself on LinkedIn that you're in customer success or customer experience, you'll be amazed at how many. You won't be amazed, of course. You get bombarded with come to this event, and being based in London affords that to me. So you can go and look at technology, you can go and understand a bit more. So again, be honest with those suppliers that are trying to sell you technology and say, I'm right at the beginning of our journey. This looks really exciting. I could see how that would work in an organization like ours, but I'm just here to learn. And from there, again, honesty and integrity, you're going to get people coming back to you with that same feeling. Much like the events industry. People in the events industry just travel. It's a global industry, but it's quite a small industry to say how big it is, right? And I feel like customer experience is the same. So for me, creating those new contacts, and I've been lucky enough to foster a relationship with one of the speakers who came to ACE in December, I think it was last year, and she's invited me to go to their head office and see how she set that team up many years ago now, and where that journey has evolved, completely different industry. And I can't wait till the time is right for me to go and do that. And that's exciting. But that just came from wow, I can't believe you're doing this. I'm in awe of what you're doing. Tell me more about it. Talk to me. Help me help everybody else. That sounds really fun. Just help me. So at least we laughed, Sandra. Hey.
Exactly. So I guess what might be the next formal stage of your endeavors. I know that you have ambitions for people in your team to also grow their knowledge. How are you taking customer experience learning to the next level? What have you got in your pot?
Well, we're lucky enough, and it is lucky that the business we're behind recruiting a customer experience manager. So Jimmy joined us about 8 weeks ago. So he just moved over here from Adelaide. So he's the second Aussie in our team, and he joined across, and he's comes from a very different customer experience background. So whilst if you'd have asked me this question 3 months ago, I'd have had a very driven, this is what we're going to do. Now Jim is here and using his skill, his knowledge, what he's passionate about, that might change slightly. So we've got more resource in the pot of what we'd like to do, and we're still very much in the getting the basics right. I'd love to use technology to understand what our customers do contact us about when they complain, what they complain about, to establish threats. I'd like to use technology again to offer a better service to our customers when they're asking the same type of question. We have a feeling for this, but we don't know. We don't know because we don't have the data, but we know. And we know that they're asking, where are your terms and conditions? When does the early bird finish? Which hotel are you at? You know, every event that we run, they ask those same questions. So let's find a technology that can just help their experience be that little bit easier, that little bit frictionless. And we all want everything in the palm of our hands. So that's one thing we're looking at. But really, we're still in that sort of research phase, I suppose, in a lot of the bigger projects. But we do talk about the operations team more widely being they are customer centric, but customer first.
Okay.
To start changing that culture very, very slowly, very, very softly. And I don't know, one day being able to understand our qualitative and quantitative data to be able to respond to our customers and respond to the good, the bad, and the ugly, you know, because we have them in. So that would be the dream, I suppose.
Yeah.
And feed that back in and then move the needle, you know, that's a simple thing.
And I think that's also quite an interesting observation, because I think that while you guys were learning last autumn, your businesses will have changed.
Yeah.
How they're operating, what they know, and also, you know, the other businesses that you're working with, and the products and portfolios that you have will have changed. I know certainly for some of the speakers that were on the course, Volvo particularly, things are changing at quite a rate. A number of new initiatives are coming up, and the reason why I bring that up is because the other important part of learning is ensuring that this course is also evolving to reflect all of those changes, and also really to keep questioning some of the accepted language that is used. So, for example, there are still conversations about the value of NPS. There are still conversations about how important it is to retain all your customers versus acquiring new customers.
Yeah.
And the guy who I met briefly, read a couple of his books, Matt Dickinson, who I hope we'll also get to do some sort of webinar for the next cohort. You know, he questions all of this. And I think one of the good things about ensuring that you're learning in a science background is that you question all of the lexicon, all of the language that's being thrown at you from all of the all of the consultancies that are out there, and just saying, hold a minute, I don't think that that's right. It's a bit like marketing. Everyone can do marketing, and I'm saying no, not customer experience is not what you think it is. It's these things, not those things. So again, I don't really know where I'm going with that, but I think it's, you know, I'm hoping that everyone who was on the course is questioning some of the folklore that is coming about in this sector. Just not true. Some of the stuff that they're being taught is just, other people out there, is just not true.
It's opinion, and I think people just forget it's about your customer base, your reality of where you work and what you're trying to do. And that does get forgotten. But when you're in that first steps of the journey, you know, one of the speakers, I don't remember the gentleman's name, but it says, you know, we're all scientists, right? We're all scientists. Just ask the question, learn, understand, test again, learn again, change something, test it again. And don't be afraid of that. Don't be scared of that. I mean, when you think that you're going to buy anything big in life, you know, you're going to go down a route in life. Most people that end up on this customer experience journey are doing something quite significant with their professional life. But you don't go and buy a car on a whim, do you? You don't like follow a trend because everyone's driving this car, so you might as well go and buy it because that's what everyone's doing. You get to, you know, go on which, and then you go on here, and then you look on there, and then, you know, that's what it's all about. We're all scientists, and I think people do tend to get up into the, you know, what's the value of NPS and how can we make it meaningful? And even here, I've last 6 months or so, it's like NPS it's something. It's there. I'm not going to deny its value. It's there, but we can change what the value is to us, and that's what's really, really important. And it's a factor of success. It's not absolute success. And I think that is what a lot of people hold on to with NPS. They're like, let's change the NPS. Everyone will stay. I mean, anybody who's watching, if anyone is, I'm very impressed. Thank you for staying this long. But how many surveys do you get as a customer yourself? Would you recommend this service to a friend or family member?
Mm-hmm.
How many of you do complete it? How many? Do you? I do it because I'm in customer experience. Before I was in customer experience, delete.
Yeah, it's interesting. I had 3 over the weekend. From various interactions with businesses that I had last week. When I checked my emails properly on Saturday afternoon, I had 3 of that exact same question. Would you recommend us to friends and family? That exact one. And I do tend to answer, but I'm more inclined to answer if it's been a good experience.
Really?
Yeah.
That's interesting. Well, so if it was a bad experience, you just ignore it?
I don't know why that is, because actually, I mean, the information is useful either way, but actually in some ways it should be the other way around. And I am quite critical publicly of some businesses and how they manage the customer experience. But it is interesting that just thinking now as to my own interaction with those emails specifically, I am more inclined to respond to them to say, hey, well done, that was a great experience, if it has been a great experience. Whereas...
And how much of that, Dominic, is you as a person, right? How much of it is you as a person where you want to congratulate and celebrate something that somebody's done well? But if you were like an absolute Christmas Grinch kind of type guy, and that was your default setting, and this is what NPS doesn't take into consideration or account, it's like the differences on the spectrum of we all are as human beings.
Yeah.
But you want to celebrate good, so I'm going to do that because anybody that if it's in the world, we know that if you congratulate it might get recognized, and that's what's interesting.
And I think
there are people out there that live on the other side of the spectrum.
Yeah, there are, absolutely. If you look at my personal account on Twitter, you'll see that I use Twitter most often to complain about bad service. And Twitter's great because typically brands tend to respond through that medium. Whereas there is a bit of me, I think, that is responding to these emails saying, hey, yeah, that was a great experience. Thank you. I would recommend you. Probably in the hope, especially if I name the person that I've had the interaction with, probably in the hope that there is a bit of reward and recognition going back that far, because ultimately a business is only as good as the last person you spoke to. And that interaction means something to me, because I know if someone's gone the extra mile to look after me as a customer, actually, you know what, that should be rewarded. It should be recognized and they should be thanked.
Yeah, completely agree.
Can I just make one?
Yeah, go on. I want to come back. I've got a question for you, but go on.
Go for it. I was actually going to say,
right, I'm not going to say anything, you talk.
Right, I'm just going to say, on your NPS, okay, so if you imagine that Twitter did an NPS,
yeah,
and you were like, I only use Twitter to complain, but I would recommend it as a platform to complain.
Yeah.
That in itself, why NPS is just completely, right? So anyway, that's all. Sorry.
I'm going to go back on what you said just now, because when Sandra asked you what you're doing next, you said you're very much still in the research phase. Many years ago, I worked in auditing within healthcare environments, and one of the things that we always talked about was having loads of data is great, but actually understanding, interpreting it, and then knowing what to do with it is more important. Acting on it, then following up and making sure that you're getting something from that data is the ultimate reason why you collect it in the first place. You're in this research phase, I guess, at the moment, is understanding, number one, what you're doing, where your customers are kind of placing you, but where are you going to take that, and how are you going to measure that what you're measuring is right, and then how are you going to measure that what you implement is working?
Can I take about half an hour think about those answers and get back to you?
That's really mean, but I just wrote it down as we were talking just now.
Okay, so I'm going to take the very, very succinct one. So we have our automated customer surveys now. So they go out and we collect that data back. We have a very fantastically innovative technology team here, who really understand customer experience. They really understand data. So I've got a really great stakeholder in a fellow director of mine, who is just as passionate, you know, about customer experience. So he's one of the only people I know that actually loves filling out surveys because of all of the booty he gets, as he calls it, right? So he's a one-off in so many ways, but he's very intrinsically built into and believes in what we're trying to do. So if we take those surveys, we're going to get a good data set. So by this time, probably in a couple of months, we're going to have a year's worth of data. And then we're going to try and understand that data. So I'll do some data analysis. We'll get the data technicians to do data analysis, and we'll get people that sit in the delivery space to do data analysis. Because just if we take a subset of, I don't know, of all of our events we delivered last year, let's focus on the 20. Let's all analyze this together and see what we come back with of what our sentiment analysis is on that data, because it's not just numbers. This is what I really, really had a massive takeaway from the course: the objective and the subjective. Yeah. And the real gold is in the subjective, because you can score, if you're a Grinch, you score a 3 out of 10, and you think that's a good score because your top score is 6, but you're going to score it a 3. So what does that mean? So let's align that to the customer satisfaction score. Does that indicate the same thing? And if I have someone looking at the subjective and kind of go, they said this, they felt that, they were disappointed with this, they were elated with that, and we find a scoring system to do that. Do they match up? And then it's a case of, and this is just one program we've done, and that is the next step. That's the natural next step for this to go. But again, 3 months ago, I wouldn't have gone down that route so permanently. I'd probably been like, oh, let's get a bit more data. But I've really found myself of late focusing my energies more on the subjective, because we have good objective data. So it's about how the two marry up and what they mean to your organisation.
Yeah.
Does that answer the question at all?
Yes.
I remember one of the guys on the course saying to me that up until the point where they had, I think it was Tim actually, from Sketch Lab, up until the point when Tim had said some of the stuff he'd said about quantitative and qualitative and people's natural inclination and bias and all this sort of stuff. He said until that point, he didn't feel equipped to challenge anyone on what he was being told to do. And he said after that point, he was able to articulate a challenge that was not confrontational but healthy, and got the senior leaders considering a different way forward, because in fact they were transfixed on it. And what he basically said is, let's look at it this particular way because of what he'd learned. And then he did exactly what you talked about. It's a triangulation of data. It's seeing where the patterns are, and it's then drawing out more questions to then go and search. And not forgetting what we talked about last week, which was asking your front line. A whole bunch of qualitative stuff from their interpretation of what's going on, which is again subjective, but to take it a different way. And it was only because of the stuff that he'd been equipped with and the language to use that he felt that he was able to say, actually, no, you're really not. That your NPS can't possibly be 98 because Amazon is 64. Hello. But, you know, it's only at that point he felt like he could.
Well done, I think. That's not real. Yeah,
absolutely.
NPS is a fad and a craze that I think most people have just sort of gone on to, but it's an indicator, right? It's not
I want to ask you.
It's not the answer. It's not the Holy Grail.
Yeah, exactly. One of the things I'd like to ask you about is the final assessment. So the reflective work that you did. Just a quick view on what it was and what it meant to you.
What it was 8. How many words was it again?
2,500.
Right. Okay. So you told me how many pages it was when I gulped at that and realised that I'd probably speak that in an hour. But anyway, what it allowed me to do was it was a big piece in terms of when you're very operational and you're a problem solver, you're just running, you're just figuring stuff out, and then you're doing stuff. But what it allowed me to do was really take a step back and align my thinking of how am I going to approach this? Where are the next steps? And it put a nice sort of a nice natural end to the course, because it enabled me to do all of that thinking all the way along. And Sandra, which is a fantastic customer experience when we all arrived, we had personalised notebooks that's like, Laura, this is your notebook, and a nice pen, not just a biro. It was very well received. I loved it. And that became my CX book, and that lives on my desk. And anytime I need to kind of flick back or I'm thinking of things, I'll go back and refer to that. So that became the base of what I wrote, and much about my reflective essay was that, really focusing on the reflection. And I think I had more questions than answers coming out of that, really. And I think I honestly, to fill those 2,500 words, I got to about week 4. And there were another 4 weeks of amazing stuff that I was like, I've come to a finish here, and I've met the criteria. Can I finish? But it lives on my desk. It lives with me, and yeah, it was great. To be honest, I don't like doing stuff like that, but it was very good exercise for me.
Yeah, it's interesting because I've been teaching now for 3 years, and the thing that I think I've learned far more is when the students I give a task to have to reflect on it and then play it back.
Yeah,
know that stuff is going to stay. So that's the reason why the course goes 3 days in January, 2 days in March, to allow for that. So really, it's a bit like all of us sort of getting back together again after a few months, which is what we did last time.
We did, yeah.
To test it out, reflect on it, and then come back with their learning, which is then the shared experiences, which I think should again add a bit more quality to the way that people can apply what has been learned. It's not just theoretical. This is, you can go off and do your thing, see what happens, test this, test that, try this.
While you're talking, Sandra, I've actually put the slide up on the screen for people. You're right next to it, so you're more than welcome just to take only 30 seconds to talk through it, because we are up against a time deadline, because you've got to go teach today. So you've got 30 seconds. It's on the screen now. Just run through it very briefly.
Okay, so we've got a blend of different materials that we're covering. We've got different topics. We've put these together really as a response to people saying, well, what about this and what about that? So we kind of start off with psychology. So really understanding what's going on with customers, why they think the way they do. Employee engagement and organizational structures are central. And we definitely cover off how you can get traction. A lot of the participants of courses say, well, this is all very well, but it's in a vacuum. So how do I actually get traction? How do I get people to want to do this stuff? The other kind of burning issue that people have, I can't remember this being a particular thing for you, Laura, but certainly a couple of the other participants were saying, I need to put a business case together for us to do stuff. Where do I start, and what has been successful? So we take people through, this is the kind of thing your FD is going to be looking for. This is the kind of stuff that your CEO is going to be looking for. Not surprisingly, emotional intelligence, memory and self-awareness, because I think that the science behind what people recall and the role of emotion is misunderstood in this sector. So we want to set the record straight. Everyone loves a bit of customer journey mapping, and it's a critical part of bringing the organization together. So we bring that to the fore. We spend a whole day on that with a number of quite different techniques other organizations haven't used so far. Then we come back in the March to reflect on what we've learned from what we've put into play. And then it's about this kind of, how does it change things? How do you get individual departments to work more effectively together? How do you make projects come to life? And how do you showcase some of these things so that more people want to get involved? Voice of the customer programs. This is one of the biggest investments the organizations make. Several £1 million. We've been involved in pitches for organizations as well. And this is really warts and all, what you should do, what you shouldn't do, how you engage with vendors. And we think there's a value add here because you're learning from people who have felt the pain of perhaps getting it wrong. And finally, it's kind of setting yourself up for success. And that's really about your personal aspirations and what you need to do to get the gravitas, to use the language, and to take your career actually to the next level. So that's it, but I took a bit longer than you said, sorry.
It was a bit longer than 30 seconds. I'm only worried because of your time, Di.
Where are you?
I've just put up a slide on the screen which shows it's the slide that says you'll learn from experts working with. So Punk CX, it's written by Adrian Swinscoe, who we had on the show last Thursday. You got Waitrose, Volvo, National Trust, Atom Bank, CX Lab, and BVA Nudge. BVA, is that Richard?
Yeah.
Okay, so Richard, who we had on a couple of weeks ago. And then I've put your contact details, but I'll put all the links to you in the comments below. That's way more than 30 seconds, so you covered that more than well enough. I want to get some parting words. First of all, from you, Sandra, and then Laura, I'm going to ask you to do the same, and then we'll say goodbye to you both.
I just want to say thank you so much to both of you, particularly to Laura for your time. I know that you're up against it on a number of projects, and just to share some of the insights, some of the tidbits of your experience on your journey is great. So thank you so much for that. You're a real inspiration. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Very nice words. From me, if anyone's watching this who's thinking, is it for me? If you're even asking that question, it is. Do it. It's great. You won't regret it. Yeah, it's a game changer. So I've loved it. And just at the beginning. So let's crack on.
Maybe we should do this again in a year to see how far you've got.
We'll be booming her in from somewhere in Singapore or Hong Kong. It's going to be for something.
Is it 5 o'clock there? Does that mean there's wine? Right?
It's always 5 o'clock somewhere.
Thanks,
Laura, we're going to say goodbye. I just need 1 minute with Sandra, and then we're pretty much going to watch her sprint out of the door. But I'm going to blame her because she took more longer than 30 seconds on her slide explanation. Laura, thank you very much for joining us. We will speak again very soon, I'm sure.
Thank you, Laura.
Cheers. Bye-bye.
Yeah.
Bye.
Sandra, another one.
Yeah.
I love doing these.
Watching Laura's journey from, I'm not too sure what this thing is, but I need to learn about it, through to her becoming director of customer success for an organization that's really going places. You know, watching what she's doing with the kind of insight that she's got. I'd love to say that I am completely responsible for that. I'm not, but I do think that some of the people that she met, some of the speakers that she heard from did make a difference for her in those early stages. It gave her the confidence to know that she was talking the right language, she was bringing up the right things. It's so important because she just can't wait to get her hands on the next project to make a difference to her customers. So it's a joy to watch.
Yeah, absolutely. And for me doing this show, it's every one of these has been different, which has been brilliant because there's been a slightly different slant on everything. But actually, this wasn't about the theory behind so much, more the application of. And if you've got people, and we've got people watching now, who might take a look at this and think, maybe that is for me. As Laura just said, you know what, just do it. And she's a really good example of someone that said, okay, we should be doing this. Let's do it. I'm going to go learn about it and then apply it. And that's really, in the 50 odd minutes that we've had here, that was kind of the purpose of putting this different angle on it. Yeah,
that's right. And I do think that the way that we've designed it this time round, being a total of 5 days rather than 10 nights, I think different approach. But when I was speaking to Laura about it, when I decided to make the change, she was like, yeah, that could work, as long as there's a period of time between the first and the second tranches so people can get that reflection, because that's definitely the thing that seemed to make a difference for all of the participants.
Yeah, which is then you go away, you try something, come back and let's talk about it. What worked, what didn't.
Exactly.
Excellent. I know you've got to go and teach. You've probably got about 3 minutes to be where you need to be, haven't you?
Yep, so I better get my roller skates on.
Right, very briefly, we're not here this Thursday because I'm away. Who have we got next? Do you know?
We're waiting to hear on Tony Berry from the National Trust.
Oh, that's right.
He's up his eyes with lots of things, but he's promised he'll schedule us in. Okay. So watch this space.
Okay, but we will be back. I think it's going to be Thursday the 28th of November. I think that's the date. We will be back on that Thursday. It's just not confirmed exactly who we're going to have on just yet. Anyway, Sandra, you go off and teach. I will catch you towards the end of the week, and we'll be back on next Thursday together.
Thanks, Dominic.
All right. See ya.
Bye.
Bye. And then there was one, just me, just to wrap up the show. As I just said, I love doing these because it's a completely different thing for me to just sit on camera and really listen to people talking about a subject that I can't really add a huge amount of information or knowledge to, aside from the fact that as a customer, I experience everything that these guys are talking about, on a daily, weekly, monthly basis. And it's really important that, and I'm really grateful that I get the opportunity then to add a little bit of insight, perhaps, into what it's like being the other side. Anyway, that is show number 4 done with Sandra. As I said just now, we will be back on Thursday, the 28th of November, with a guest, but not confirmed who that guest is yet. There's Tony, who she's already mentioned. There's one other potential, but we will be back. I am off. If you are watching and you know me from my job, which is running Stream, a video production company, I'm about to pack up and go to the airport because I'm flying to Barcelona to join IBTM. I'm going to be walking around visiting the show, and I will be doing a little bit of filming, probably interviewing a couple of people for my own purposes for this show, for when we come back in January. So if you're at IBTM, drop me a message below, say hi, I will be there. I'm going to leave today's show playing a video promoting exactly what we do, because ultimately this is all to do with promoting Stream. We're the UK's first iPhone only multi-camera live stream and event video production company. We'll be back on the 28th of November. Thank you very much for watching. Hi, I'm Dominic. I run Stream. We're the UK's first iPhone-only multi-camera live stream and event video production company. Rather than just talk about what we do, I thought I'd show you as well. First though, we need to pack this. Let's go. Everything I'm trying to build with Stream comes down to one thing: efficiency. That efficiency comes in a variety of forms. From a kit perspective, we're more efficient. We've minimised the equipment we carry, and we can get everything we need for a 4 or 5 camera shoot into one small hand luggage case. From a time perspective, we're more efficient. The fact the kit is so small and everything is wireless makes us blisteringly quick to get set up. From a team perspective, we're more efficient. All our cameras can be mounted on remote controlled gimbals, so we don't need any more than 2 people on most jobs we do. From a cost perspective, we're more efficient. The minimised kit, the ease of transport, the speed of setup, the fact that everything is shot and edited live and that we don't charge per camera channel, all of that makes us a more cost-efficient option. And from a delivery perspective, we're more efficient. Everything is shot and edited live. You know, we can deliver recorded content in as little as 30 minutes, which breaks new boundaries in event and corporate video production. We're the first company in the UK to be using technology in this way to disrupt the video production world, and I love that me and my team at Stream are spearheading that.